And let me get the recording started.
Hi, Ann. Hi,
Okay.
Ann.
Hi, Ann.
Hey,
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, so was there any discussion we wanted to have before we picked up from where we were? Okay, so seeing and hearing none. Okay, Christine, I see your note. You're going to have to leave. Okay. Well, we will miss you when you go. So why doesn't everybody go ahead and put themselves on mute, and I will start reading. I don't remember what chapter we're in, but we didn't quite finish the chapter. Because this is Neil speaking. I can see that happening on a regular basis. I don't know exactly which ideas are coming from where, but I've certainly seen a lot of movies, books, online articles, and other messages dealing with a better way for humans to interact, offering elements of a wonderfully altered cultural story for our species, and presenting daring new scenarios for improving our collective future. Now you've got me wondering, is this very experience that I'm having right now part of that process? Have all my conversations with God actually been conversations with highly evolved beings? No. This conversation is being sourced by the highly evolved beings to which I have been referring, is not being sourced by the highly evolved beings to which I have been referring, if that's what you're asking. It's a part of the larger process through which divinity is being expressed through the cosmos. Every sentient being in the universe has the ability to communicate directly with the divine. It is not, and never has been, necessary to go through any intermediary, a highly evolved being, or anyone else. All human beings are having conversations with me all the time. They are simply not announcing it, or they are calling it something else, usually for fear of being ridiculed or marginalized. Highly evolved beings are simply more aware of their external connection with original source, would never deny that they are expressions of it, experience that they are in constant communication with the essential essence that you call God, and find both joy and fulfillment in passing on what they have come to understand and experience as a result of their external connection and continual unity with me. And so it's been that a highly evolved being has come to Earth on occasion through the millennia? Yes, when doing so would offer the very best chance for a message that would be of great benefit to the advancement of your species to be delivered and modeled in such a way that it could not be missed. The message does not have to be accepted, mind you. Nothing is ever required of or forced on anyone by a highly evolved being. But delivering and modeling the message in a way that can't be missed is in every case a Hebe's objective. Now let me pause here. Shall I keep going, or do you want to have a discussion?
I think we should keep going.
Okay, on we go. Chapter 25. I would like very much to understand all of this even better. You may think that I have an unquenchable thirst for details, but I find it hard to accept what I can't hold in my mind as comprehensively possible. Please don't worry. I've invited you before, in previous conversations, to set aside any feelings that you should explain yourself or apologize. Yes, you have. Thank you. Just be sure, because of the fascination of it, not to make this continuing dialogue so much about the technical details of highly evolved beings that you lose sight of the most important aspect of all that you are being invited to live and share, which is how all of you can elevate your experience on Earth to that of an awakened species called humanity. You'll want to make sure that we talk about how you can fully integrate wonderfully elevated ideas into your daily life, changing your own behaviors in the process. And we want to talk more about love, true love, real love, the foundational energy of the universe, and how you can experience and express that in its purest form. Thank you. I won't lose that focus. I do want to bring all of this back to topics of huge importance and relevance to my own personal experience. And it is, in fact, because I know that this is of personal relevance that I've accepted without pause the third invitation. I realize that this is going to do me more good than anyone else. But I am, of course, fascinated with what you've been telling me since you said that those of us who choose to do so don't have to worry about understanding the mission of awakening the species all alone, that we have help. You do. And that this help is coming from highly evolved beings in another dimension, from another dimension. It is. So there's no way I'm not going to want to know all that I can about that. I'm assuming that how they are trying to help us has been by sharing some of the actions, choices, and decisions that humans might take as we become more fully awakened. So I'm grateful to have reviewed that list and explored some of the implications for humanity. But my mind is signaling me that before I can even begin to fully absorb that kind of information, it needs to deal with some of the very real skepticism about whether any so-called highly evolved beings have actually visited us. And if so, how they could have gotten away with it without discombobulating the entire world. If I could get a handle on that, I'm guessing I could get my logical mind out of the way enough to explore how human society could change if we lived as an awakened species. What do you need to know then about all this? I'd first like to see if I clearly understand what I've been told so far. Ask any question you wish. Thank you. On those occasions when a highly evolved being has physicalized on Earth, and you said it has been very rare, but it has happened, you explained that it would not just drop in as a human being, suddenly showing up, walking around as a fully developed person, but would embody at the beginning of the human life cycle. Is that correct? That is what is so, yes. So I have to ask, this is with the awareness of the mother and the father of this baby? Do I have that right? If this truly is a highly evolved being, I can't imagine it would embody in any way invasively or intrusively. You are correct. Both human beings begetting this offspring would be gently and lovingly imbued with a deep inner awareness that they have an opportunity to create a child with a very special purpose. And the option is theirs to do so or not. But even with that having been said, the idea of a couple giving birth to an alien being feels very difficult for me to accept. I'm feeling very challenged by this. The highly evolved being who became the offspring of humans is not an alien in any way, any more than you will be an alien when you leave your physical body through the process you call death, and then return from the metaphysical for another life in the physical through the process that you call birth. A highly evolved being is simply a fully awakened entity who has moved through the same cycle and is doing the same thing, with the difference that such a being has moved from the metaphysical to the physical interdimensionally. On rare occasion, one has taken on physicality in the form called human. I see. Nor would you be an alien in any other form in the physical universe that you might choose to assume. You would be one of them in any civilization in the realm of the physical in which you may decide to take physical form. I'm sorry, you lost me again. You may choose to physicalize in any form that you choose, anywhere in the universe. Did you know that? No, I did not know that. I probably ran across the idea somewhere in some reading I've done or some story I've heard, but did not know it as true. It is. Are you saying I can choose to reincarnate somewhere else other than on Earth? Yes, you have that option, yes. Why would I do that? Well, as a part of your soul's journey, as a part of its mission to experience every aspect of itself that it knows itself to be. For the very reason your soul may have left other civilizations to embody on Earth. Are you telling me that I might be an alien here? No. You would be no more an alien having been born here than a highly evolved being who came to Earth would be. This is the point. You would simply have come here to experience every aspect of life that existence on Earth can provide, while a highly evolved being from another dimension would have come here to assist you. Have I actually ever done any of this? I mean, I know you're saying that it's possible for a soul to do so, but has my particular soul ever incarnated somewhere else in the cosmos? Well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever gazed up at the night sky and felt as if you were looking homeward? Yes, I have, actually. That's an interesting question you've asked. And I have to admit, I've actually felt homesick sometimes, with my attention drawn like a magnet to a particular sector. Do you think you would feel that way about somewhere you've never been? My goodness, this conversation is taking me to a whole slew of unexpected places. If you wanted the expected, you probably should not have had a conversation with God. No, probably not. So you're saying that souls have their choice between lifetimes of where to become physical. The whole experience of all souls is about choice. Always and forever. Choice, choice, choice. Free choice. The choice of divine beings being divine. Oh man, this is so, I don't know, incredible is a word that my mind comes up with. I'm fighting not to say impossible to believe. Why are you so amazed? Is it not written, we are gods? Yes, but who believes that stuff? Who takes it literally? What is the point of the message if you're going to toss it aside? I'm hearing that. But there's so much in so many holy scriptures, and not every word of it is true. Let's be fair. There have been some misinterpretations, some misunderstandings of the original, shall I say, revelations. So we have to pick and choose, and it's not easy knowing which to hold close and deeply believe. Yes, that's why once in every great while, a highly evolved being from another dimension will embody in human form to deliver and model in human form the grandest truths, making it more possible for your emerging species to sort this all out. When a highly evolved being becomes human in form, it will absorb, embrace, and embody all aspects of humanness, down to the smallest detail and cellular characteristic. It is therefore not alien, but entirely human, yet with characteristics of thought and temperament, awareness and understanding that its knowing and experience brings it. So this soul could really be called a highly evolved human. That's exactly so. Hebes, like you, are souls, manifesting destiny in physical form. They are souls who have chosen to move from the metaphysical to the physical in your dimension in order that they may have the experience of their divinity by assisting other souls in remembering their own. That is a wonderful clarification, a perfect exegesis.
Thank you,
Pause.
Linda.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Linda. Your emotion was wonderful.
Well, it completely took me by surprise.
It did? You haven't read this?
No, I did not. I
No.
had not read this chapter yet.
Wow. What a chapter. 2 chapters.
How about anybody else? Anybody else have that experience of looking up at the sky and feeling you're being drawn home?
Well, my thoughts, every time I look up in the sky, it seems that the plough is there staring at me. So that's what my thoughts were drawn to then when reading that. I just look up and there it is. Whatever direction I seem to look in, there's the plough. So I'm not sure what that means, but that is what happens. But the other thing that I was thinking about that and thinking about Jesus Christ now and coming to earth in human form. What do we think then about him returning? Because he said he was going to come back. So I just wonder what people think about that. Over.
I think he has.
Ah, okay. What, since
Yeah.
of his death cross as we...
Yeah, I think he has, and I think he's in. I think he's in multiple places and in multiple people.
I say, but just not sort of showing himself as Christ, if you see what I mean.
Right. That didn't work so well the last time, if you recall. So I think maybe he's trying a different way.
Yes, because if someone was to come down and say, I'm Jesus Christ, he's likely to be locked up or whatever. Yeah, quite. Do you have any thoughts, Linda, of what other beings he has, what form he has taken then since he's come back?
A good question.
I think that a couple of things for me. He's my best friend, and the Holy Spirit I choose to be in love with in a sort of feminine principle. But anyway, this is right from what you were reading today. Oh, cute. Now, Linda, a lamp unto us all. Your name is showing us on the screen as Nanette Kennedy. Nanette Kennedy, let's send her all love and goodness.
No,
Right?
I noticed that. I was like,
Yeah. So
it's
hey,
the reincarnated Annette Kennedy.
if the situation were the same for me, then a goddess by any other name is just as godly, right?
Yeah. And I think for me, one of the hardest things for the innocence that I am, and I was so conditioned early, is for me to believe that I am God, goddess, having an experience as Christine. And, I work on that every day.
I'd still like to get Linda to answer that question because I'm very interested in her answer.
Why she's Nanette? She decided to be Nanette today.
Well, I had to be Nanette if we wanted to
I know.
record the meeting.
I know. This is a joke.
So I
Shut up.
think that Jesus is I think that Christ is available to anybody who asks. I know he walks with me, and I know he walks with other people. I know other people that have very personal, intimate relationship with the entity, if you will, that we refer to as Jesus. I usually call him Yeshua because that was his name. And so does that mean that all the people that have a personal experience of Jesus are Hebes? maybe. You know, maybe that's what that is. I don't know. There's some stuff in this chapter I wasn't expecting. So it's a surprise to me as much as it is to the rest of you. But that's my answer. Does that make sense?
Well, I just wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth. But here's why I ask. You've written a book, and the whole purpose of the book is to uplift everyone. And we're talking here in this chapter now about love. And because of Angela, we've been doing the meditation every week. And my request for you, Linda, is to do exactly what the book is saying. Today, here, now, is for every one of our hearts to be pulled up as your book is indicating, so that we can all be Jesus where we are, if that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we should do it right away.
Okay.
I'm so glad I'm not demanding.
So if I understand you correctly, you would like us to do the meditation that we've been doing, a couple of minutes. And what's the focus today?
Exactly what's in the chapter, in this chapter now.
Okay.
Which is that, God's saying, heaps have come, and, the joke was made that it didn't end well for Jesus, right? So you've got this sense of humor, and you've been looking at the sky and crying, So I think you're it. You decide what we're going to do, but I'm with you.
Okay. All right. So why don't we all just take a break here? Everybody close their eyes. Center on your breathing. And I want you to imagine that you're looking at the night sky. Now for me, whenever I look at the night sky, I see Orion's belt. Doesn't matter where I am, I see Orion's belt. I laid in bed in Iceland, I looked out the window, Orion's belt. After we got home from Iceland, I got out of the car, I looked up at the sky, Orion's belt was right over our driveway. I don't know how that can work. How can it be outside my window in Iceland and over my head in Alaska? So there's something there. So look at the sky and see what you normally see. And open up to that connection. That we are all one. Think of a prism of light. Think of the source of the light, how it's all one. And then think of the light as it goes through the prism, and it breaks down into the colors. And it breaks down into the individuated colors. But we're really all one. We're that source. And when we're here in the third dimension, in our physical bodies, we're those individuated colors. But that's only because we're looking through that particular lens. Take that prism lens away, and what happens? All those colors go in together, and they become that one light. So we're all connected. When you look at that sky and you see a star or a constellation that speaks to you, that's your home. And I might look at a different one and call that one my home. But for this time and being, we're actually here on earth. And so now this is our home. And we're here, each of us, to shine our light, to be our individuated expression of divinity. And so if you're not already having a personal relationship with the entity that we call Christ or Jesus, just ask. Just invite him. And if there's anybody else you want to have a personal relationship with, any angel, any entity, you just have to ask. Because it's really already inside of you. Everything exists inside of each of us. Each of us is the complete totality of existence. We are powerful beyond our wildest dreams. And it's just a matter of us stepping in to our own power, our own innate beauty and divinity. So as we go through our week, let's remember that. Hold that image of the night sky within you, and let the stars guide you. And when you're ready, come back to the circle and we'll decide what we want to do. Keep reading or continue discussing.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
I didn't want to come back.
I know, really. Thank you, Linda. That was wonderful. I have a love rock here. Can you see it? Oh, no, you can't. Right there. It's a pink quartz.
Yep.
Love stone. Love rock. See the heart? It's shaped as in a heart.
Yep.
Heart shaped.
See mine? It's a citrine heart.
Ooh, nice. Oh, yeah.
Okay, folks. So shall we keep reading? Do we want to discuss this anymore?
How long is the next chapter?
Let's see. Christine says, as I uncover the power within, I unleash. Yes.
I unleashed my divine potential and I hit enter before I got to type.
Oh, oops. I do that all the time.
Yeah. When I first went on to Facebook, I didn't realize you had to put enter to post. And so I'm writing all these posts and they're not showing up.
Not
and I'm
going, oh, no.
on. And it was one of my meditation teachers, like, whenever I joined Facebook, said, you have to hit enter, Chris.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
I think that chapter 26 is not so long that we couldn't finish it.
How much more time do we have?
We have about 20 minutes.
Okay,
23 minutes.
Great. Thank you.
Everybody in agreement?
Sure, let's go ahead.
Okay. All right. So chapter 26. This is Neil. And so a highly evolved being lives through the developmental years like any other member of our species, then begins to do the work of helping the species awaken when it grows into adulthood, sometimes even before then. It begins helping when it's a child? Sometimes, yes. How does it not stand out? Actually, it does. It almost always called a standout and may have surprised others with what it seems to know and what it says. But the Hebe's only objective was to leave information here in a way that articulated higher ideals for the consideration of a still developing culture. Well, how did a highly evolved being do that? How did it leave this information? Tell me how we were helped when a Hebe came to Earth.
I love you all. I love you.
The Hebe spoke to people, sometimes its elders, later in life its peers, and offered things that perked up ears and that have been remembered, in some cases for centuries. It also modeled by its behavior how an awakened species could live. This was its most significant contribution to the culture, its chief means of message delivery. Some highly evolved beings left writings, adding ideas to the culture in many forms, from novels to poetry to dramatized entertainments in which they placed enormous truths. Well, such as, I'm ready to start hearing about how an awakened species thinks. I'm hoping for examples now. Well, here are some. Eliminate the concept of ever being offended, much less seeking revenge. Only offer high blessings to one who hurts you. Do away with defense of any kind. Well, those are really pretty, how to put this, advanced ideas. Any human being saying such things would probably be written off as standing way outside the mainstream and not taken very seriously. Don't be too sure. Some ideas have been placed into your culture and have not been written off, but actually honored. It was the man called Buddha who told his monks that even if bandits on a road attacked and robbed them, quote, whoever of you harbors ill will at your heart could not be upholding my teachings. Monks, even in this situation, you should train yourselves thus. Neither shall our minds be affected by this, nor, for this matter, shall we give vent to evil words, but we shall remain full of concern and pity, with a mind of love, and we shall not give in to hatred. On the contrary, we shall live projecting our thoughts of universal love to those very persons making them, as well as the whole world, the object of our thoughts of universal love. Thoughts that have grown great, exalted, and measureless. We shall dwell radiating these thoughts, which are void of hostility and ill will. It is in this way, monks, that you should train yourselves. And wasn't it a man named Jesus who said, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you? And did he not also say, if a man slaps you on the right cheek, turn and offer him your left? Well, now, are you saying that Buddha and Jesus are highly evolved beings from another dimension? I'm saying that these ideas are not widely accepted or practiced in humanity's culture at the time. Or even today, those who spoke them were inspired. So they were Hebes, or were they not? It will serve no useful purpose here to singly identify any and every individual within humanity's history who received their inspiration from an entity who birthed as a highly evolved being embodying on your planet, or who in fact was one. Well, I'm asking because given the information in this dialogue, some think that you are inferring that the great teachers and philosophers and messengers of our past, from Lao Tzu to Socrates to Buddha to Jesus, from Hildegard of Bingen to Julian of Norwich, 200 years later, or other models and teachers, both before and after those men and women, were highly evolved beings from another dimension. Is that what you're inferring? You see how this has already become a distraction from their message. It's almost as if the wonder and the glory of their modeling, the insight and the wisdom of their message, should somehow be considered in a different way because it may have been inspired by a highly evolved being, or because they themselves may have been such a being, come from another dimension and born to humanity to assist the species. Yet why should the origin of any message or modeling have more importance than the content? The effect of Hebes having offered inspirational assistance in your evolutionary process was not intended to cause you to question your past, but to inspire you to create a glorious future. Truth is truth, no matter what the source. Leaving the question of our distant past, then, let me ask you this. Are such beings embodied on our planet now? It would likewise serve no useful purpose to follow that line of inquiry. If I said yes, you would want to know immediately the identity of that entity. If I said no, not at this time in your history, you would then ask me to identify who was the most recent one in your past. In all cases, to identify anyone among you, past or present, as a member of an awakened species from another dimension, could in some people's minds invalidate some very important messages that humans have at least partially embraced, or, in the reverse, could inordinately elevate every word they spoke or wrote, turning him into the next thing you choose to believe in, instead of yourself. Okay, now that hit home. It was meant to. There would be no point in highly evolved beings seeking to help humanity if all they did was cause humanity to start seeking help from them. The idea is for human beings to gain an awareness of who they are, not to substitute for that an awareness of who someone else is. Yes, our religions have already done that. We don't need that process repeated. You do not. The purpose of the entire mission in which Hebes seek to assist humanity is not to replace humanity's magnificence with their own, but to enhance humanity's magnificence with a well-chosen word or idea here or there offered to your species for its consideration. Therefore, it has been said, and I offer a gentler version, if you see the Buddha walking down the street, run away from him. I never did understand that saying. If he looks like a Buddha, walks like a Buddha, talks like a Buddha, and acts like a Buddha, he must not be a Buddha, but a fake, simply seeking your attention and adulation, because true Buddha would want nothing from you, least of all recognition of his greatness, and desire only for your own self-realization. Wow, I see that. And this is the second wonderful answer to my question a while back about myself and others who may self-select to help awaken the species, being tempted to show up in grandiose form. Even if ego tempted one to do that, a deeper awareness would make it clear that it would defeat the whole purpose of accepting the third invitation. It would indeed. And for the same reason, identifying any Hebe visiting Earth in the past or in the present would defeat the whole purpose of that rare visitation. I get it. I won't press for that information then, although I have to say you've certainly roused my curiosity. Of far more benefit to you will be to satisfy your curiosity about when your entire population on Earth will decide to live as a fully, truly awakened species. That's what Hebes would enjoin you to be curious about.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you, everyone. I've got to sign off now. I'll see everybody next week. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Christine. Good to see you.
Yeah, always good to see this group. I love this group. Bye.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye.
Love you, Christine. Anyway, on the playback, she'll hear that. Love you, Christine, and all of you, all else, us too.
Just under 10 minutes. We want to discuss this last chapter?
Yeah, I certainly do. Something's got to be done, Linda, about Donald Trump and the rest of the gang. You know, Putin and Bashar al-Assad and the crew.
It's happening. It's happening.
You mean with the Mueller business?
I mean with everything, dear. I mean with everything. You know, it's a beautiful unfoldment.
Well, now I'm like Neil saying, how?
How could we heal it if we didn't see it? You can't heal something if you can't see that it's there. And that's the phase that we're in right now. This year, 2017, has been a year of look at what's really here. And every day there's something new. And there's all kinds of things that don't even make mainstream media. That I just posted an article that was a summary of 20 articles. And I think the title on the article was something about, 20 articles that'll tell you what kind of a year it's been. And I prefaced it when I posted it that I don't care who you are or how highly evolved you might be. By the time you get done just reading the headlines and the captions of the 20 articles, you will feel sick to your stomach, because I did. And I know it's all divine. And yet I'm reading this stuff going, these were things that I didn't know about. And they're hellacious. They're incredible. They're beyond what we can comprehend for how did we get, this is the 21st century and we got slavery in Libya. And it's like, but as Neil talks about, each of our souls is on a path. And the minute you feel resistance to something, you're stepping off your path. And so when we look at these things in the world, if we feel resistance, the question is, what am I being called to do about that? And we have to go in and we have to find out what the answer is to that. And then we move into the world and we do whatever we feel moved to do in response to whatever the thing is that we've seen. But to stay focused on it out here externally is, that's the red herring. Because it's not out here. None of it's out here. It's all in here. Everything in existence exists because of our internal mechanism and what we interpret. So we bring all meaning to everything that happens. All meaning. There is no absolute meaning in any sense other than the absolute opportunity to awaken. That's the only absolute that I see in this world, is that we're all being given the absolute opportunity to awaken. And so my encouragement is for each of us is to not that we ignore it, not that we don't acknowledge that these things are going on. I'm not suggesting we stick our head in the sand and pretend it's not happening. I'm suggesting we stick our head inside ourselves and discover what it means for us in our lives.
That is the most beautiful answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Shimano.
Here, here. Thank you for that, Linda.
You're welcome, Angela.
I'm in
Yeah, I
awe of
agree.
you. Yeah, I'm in awe of you the way Neil is of God.
I had an image that came through, and I'll share it since we just got a couple of minutes left. I think everyone's familiar with the idea that there's 4 levels or 4 stages of consciousness. And I'll just run through them quickly. The first one is victim consciousness, and that tends to be where we all start out. The second level is control consciousness. And that's where if you study the law of attraction, or you get into metaphysics, or you become at all educated on energy, you tend to move into what we call control consciousness, where you're aware of how things are working and you're using your power to control your outcome. You're using affirmations, maybe, positive statements or whatever, but you have a sense of control. The third level of consciousness is what we call flow. And the fourth is unity. And the third is easier to get. The fourth level of consciousness really is sort of a metaphoric level. Like when you're in stage 4, you're really sort of speaking in metaphors or living in metaphor. It's a hard level to really describe in this third dimension. So now set that aside for a minute and let's talk about the idea of there being a river, and that life is a river. Okay? And that is, and when you're in flow with river, your life is in flow and you are in line with your divine purpose and your soul purpose, and you're in flow. When you're a victim, you come up to the river and you think that what the river is something to cross. And so you try to cross it. And you get into the river, and then you know what happens. Everything happens. You get pushed downstream and you run into a branch and a stick hits you in the head and you hit a rock. And you might be getting closer to that other side, but it's not easy and it's difficult. And all these things keep happening to you and you're really the victim. Always. This branch, that rock. You may or may not get to the other side. And your experience of life is that it's difficult. When you get into control consciousness, you come up to that river and you still think you have to get to the other side, but now you've got tools and you think you're smart. So you use some rocks and some branches and you make yourself a bridge. And maybe you get up to the other side and maybe you don't. Chances are you don't. You end up in the river, you're back in victim mode. You get back out, you start with your tools again. And so this is that spiral of, even the most advanced beings can get back into a victim consciousness for a moment. It can happen to all of us. When you're in flow consciousness or unity consciousness, you walk up to that river and you just jump in. Because you understand, first of all, that it's not about getting anywhere. It's about being. And it's about the flow. And you jump into that river and you just go with it. And yeah, maybe a branch hits you on the head as you go by. But you keep right on going. You don't obsess about the branch. You don't grab onto the branch. You don't try to punish the branch. And you don't try to break the branch as you go by. It's just a branch. You're gone. By the time you're really cognizant of the fact you bumped into a branch, you're already downstream. That's in the past. Now you're dealing with a rock or whatever. But you're in flow. And it's not a struggle. You're accepting of what comes along, and you make peace with it as you go. But most people that I know and observe in this world, they're in the river and they're hanging onto a branch, and it's like they don't want to let go of the branch. They can't get to the other side. They're just like, life doesn't need to be like that at all. And we make it so for ourselves through our own choices. And so I just wanted to share that little analogy because I thought it might be helpful to someone.
That was wonderful. That was
That's
well
great.
put and it was easy to understand. That was wonderful.
Anything else? Anyone else have anything they want to share before we wrap up? We've got a couple
Well,
minutes
I'll
left.
just let go of the branch, Linda.
Let go of the branch. Yep. That's the key. Just remember, when you're in resistance, when you're feeling resistance, you're hanging on to something, which, as Neil would say, you're, how does he say it? You're refusing an offering of your soul.
Well, the whole chapter, the previous one, I was thinking if someone could read autobiography of a yogi, they could skip the whole chapter,
Correct.
But
Correct.
you can't ever get a Christian to do that.
That's the thing. It's not, nobody's got a corner on the wisdom. The wisdom's been out here for hundreds of years, thousands of years. The wisdom is available. We could be living in Roman times for as advanced as we are mentally.
Well, see, the joke in Islam is that the Prophet Muhammad couldn't read, and yet he could take care of things. It's all in the heart, not in how well you read and how many books you've got on your shelf.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, I love Paramhansa Yogananda. I was living way east. Actually above you, Kirsten, by, I don't know, 300 miles. I love Vermont too. But anyway, big city, but cases of Paramahansa Yogananda's beautiful, little sort of like a common book of prayer, right? In terms that a lot of people still understand. But it was called Metaphysical Meditations, and gorgeous, daily meditation. And of course, Paramahansa was the Hindu gift to Christianity, gift to Hinduism, because I almost said the F word, and okay, everybody imagine the F word. Awesome. So that's all I should say. Bless you. Thanks for a wonderful meeting session, everybody.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Linda. I've got a prism here
Oh, beautiful. Look at that.
Nice.
that was in your
Wonderful.
meditation.
Yeah. Yeah, look at that. It's gorgeous.
Wow.
Yep. Not funny. All right, everyone. Well, it's 11:01.
11:01.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Linda.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
You're
Siobhana,
welcome.
Sarah,
See
Bye.
everybody next week.
Angela, Nanette Kennedy, aka Linda.
Yeah. Nanette will be back to run the meeting next week, I'm sure.